I can't believe I was still muted. All right, sorry about that there, guys. Welcome back to the, well, not at the moment, but the aquatic side of the cafe. I am dressed as a succubus for Halloween. Um, so yeah, it's been about 6 months. Twitch let me know. It's like, hey, yo, you haven't been streaming for that long. Okay, thanks, Twitch. But, it's good to see you guys here. Um, so we're going to be reading Long Live the Pumpkin Queen. That is actually that's the book that won the poll on the Discord. I can't do anything about this. My volume's as high as I can do it. I sorry guys. So, I hold on. Let me see something. Let me see something really quick. Is there a way I can make it? I'm at 93% for my mic. I don't know what to do. I'm sorry, Amar. Cooking pasta. Yeah, so is Sagril actually. And but yeah, so I honestly have no idea what this book entails. I've never read it before. I've heard it's good. And let's go ahead and jump in with the prologue. At the crisp, inky hour of midnight, Jack and I are married atop Spiral Hill in the Death's Door Cemetery. Wind stirs the bone-dry leaves, and Jack takes my soft ragdoll hands in his, the coolness of his fingers calming the flutter rippling across my stitched seams. Hey, Miss Quits. The mayor stands broad-chested before us, officiating the ceremony, his face alternating between corkscrew-eyed elation and pale, ghastly tears, while we speak our vows to each other in the grim custom of ancient wedding eulogies. The moon is a bloody red in the sky, a good omen, and a wilted oleander flower plucked from a patch of poison ivy at the far end of Halloween Town is tucked just behind my left ear, a custom that ensures a long, dreadful life. Thank you, Miss Squits. I'll make sure I stay high. I am sorry. Turn your volume up. My mic is as high as I can get it, bro. So I am sorry, but I have done the vibe check. I don't know what to tell you. Um, yeah. All right. I squeeze Jack's hands tighter. His black tuxedo tails sway in the cold night air while my dress, stitched from a scrap of black spinster lace sewn myself the night before, billows like a ghost in the breeze. Cautiously, my gaze flicks to the crowd, where I can feel the cold, spiteful eyes of Dr. Finkelstein watching me from the front row, mouth quivering with fury now that I'm finally escaping him, once and for all. I am no longer your creation, I think, words knitted in my chest. It seems unimaginable that barely a year ago I feared I might spend my life trapped in Dr. Finkelstein's lab, fated to only ever watch Jack from afar, loving him, but certain he would never know the ache I feel whenever he looked my way. But after Jack tried to steal Christmas from Sandy Claus, after he nearly died venturing to the human world to deliver our grim presents on Christmas Eve, with Zero leading his sleigh of skeleton reindeer, a plan I sensed was doomed from the start. I knew I couldn't spend my life without him. I knew I wouldn't waste another night. Under the dark snow-flecked sky, Jack and I walked out to the cemetery, his moon-hollow eyes sinking, sinking into mine. And that and at last, after a lifetime of loving him from afar, my rag doll heart aching to know what it would feel like if he ever loved me back, we shared our first kiss on the crest of Spiral Hill. The same place where we now stand, hand in hand. The mayor's face spins back around to reveal his wide, toothy grin, his black widow bow tie eerily shiny in the moonlight, and he announces Jack and me as husband and wife, voice bellowing over the crowd. Jack leans forward, eyes damp at the edges, and presses his grave cold mouth to mine, and my seams feel like they're going to fray and burst, like they can't contain this swollen, chest-widening feeling rupturing through me. A feeling so strange and unknown and peculiar that it makes me dizzy, makes my head swim, my legs teeter. Jack and I are married. He wipes away the tears streaming down my cotton cheekbone to my chin, and looks at me like his own chest is about to fracture. And for a moment I'm certain they should just bury us both here at the center of the graveyard, married and died on the same day, unable to contain the unspeakable, awful, wondrous emotion breaking against our eyelids. The dreadful residents of Halloween Town applaud, tossing my tiny dwarf spiders at our feet as we leave the cemetery. And the warmth in my chest feels like bats clamoring for a way out of my ribcage, trying to break me apart. I am now Sally Skellington, the Pumpkin Queen, and I'm certain I will never again be as happy as I am right now. The evening skyline of Halloween Town is dotted with tiny pinholes of starlight, and across the town square pumpkins glow a sinister copper orange. From Jack's house atop Skull Hill, the town looks different, draped in long, finger-like shadows. The air smells different, too, like black licorice and raven wings, and a little like pumpkin jam. Nothing like the foul stench of sodium chloride and rubbing alcohol that permeates Dr. Finkelstein's lab, a place that was once my home, but also a prison. The memory of it churns inside me, entwined with a feeling of stark relief that I will never again sleep inside that cold observatory, never lie awake, alone in a narrow, moth-eaten bed, staring through a tiny window up at Jack's house in the distance, daydreaming of living within its walls some day. It feels like a fairy tale from one of those happy ever after books where the princess storms the castle, slays a goblin dragon, and takes over the kingdom for herself. Except I am not golden-haired or fine-boned. I have no bones at all. I am a rag doll who married a skeleton king. A rag doll who woke from the impossible daydream and found herself in her own heroine's story, a tale whose ending hasn't yet been written, but instead is only just beginning. I leave the terrace overlooking the town and move back into the bedroom I now share with Jack, facing the tall, spiderweb cracked mirror leaning against the slanted wall. I run my fingers through my hair, pulling it forward over my shoulder, the scarlet strands so coffin straight that they could never be coiled or coiffed, or pinned up with bat bows. I press my palms against my patchwork dress, staring at my reflection in the glass, the crossed seams along my chest, the smile seams at the corners of my mouth, the places where Dr. Finkelstein stitched me together, needle and thread and sinister midnight conjurings. His creation, made in the dark, damp shadows of his lab. A dead leaf pokes out from the seam along the inside of my left elbow, my stuffing coming loose, and I quickly push it back into place. My threads need to be restitched, leaves gathered and restuffed. You ready? Jack asks. I turn, and he's standing in our bedroom doorway, holding a black velvet suitcase. The bottomless caverns of his eyes like graves I would happily tumble down, 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 forever without end. A spider, a remnant of the wedding, skitters free from inside the suitcase and runs along the handle before it drops to the floor and falls into a crack. I had wanted to gather herbs from the garden, nightshade and bottle thorns, to take with us, just in case, but Jack assured me I wouldn't need such things on our honeymoon. Potions and poisons aren't necessary outside of Halloween Town, he had said. There would be no need to poison or put anyone into a deathly sleep. But it's hard for me to imagine a world where such things aren't needed. I turn to smile at Jack, the seams on my cheeks stretching wide, and place my hand around the sturdy bones of his arm. My husband, the man I have loved for so long. At times it felt like it might crack me open, and together we step out into the cool twilight of Halloween Town. I forgot something. Just had to update my tags real quick. Sorry about that, guys. Still had Stardew in there. At the front gate of our home, guarded by two iron cats, spines raised, Jack pushes open the gate to face the waiting crowd, eager to catch a glimpse of the newly married king and queen, and he clears his throat. My wife, Sally, and I are off to our honeymoon, he announces, grinning, showing all his corn kernel teeth. We'll be back tomorrow. If anything should happen, the mayor will be in charge. The mayor, who stands beside one of the fanged metal cats, jerks his shoulders back at the same moment. His face spins around, revealing the downturned slope of his crooked mouth and the deep worry in his small eyes. Is that such a good idea, Jack? He asks nervously. Perhaps someone else should be in charge. Or maybe we should elect a committee. I'm not sure I can make decisions if an important matter were to arise. Or you could delay the honeymoon until after Halloween. It's only 2 weeks away. He reminds Jack, spring is the perfect time for a trip. Or better yet, just skip the honeymoon altogether. You'll do great, Jack says, clapping the mayor on the shoulder. The mayor briefly reveals his smiling face, as if for half a second he believes he's up to the task, before his features swivel back around, lips a grim blue, worry rimming his terror-struck eyes. But Jack is unfazed by the mayor's apprehension. It's nothing new, and we make our way through the crowd, Jack shaking hands, accepting the congratulations of the townspeople who shuffle close, too close, crushing against us, hands reaching out to see us off. But I slink back. The eyes of everyone on me feel like thorny stabs across my linen flesh, pulling me apart bit by bit. I'm not used to the attention. The whites of their eyes like hollowed out ghosts, peering into my empty soul, judging, appraising. Sally the rag doll, our pumpkin queen. There is a festering thought inside me. Perhaps they'll think I'm not worthy of the title. A rag doll should never be queen. a rag doll who should go back to the darkness of Dr. Finkelstein's lab, cold and solitary and alone. They look at me like they're considering eating me whole. Some of them probably would. But then I catch a flash of white to my left, and Zero appears, pushing through the onlookers to nudge me in the elbow with his glowing jack-o'-lantern nose, and I stroke his ghostly white coat to the soft, transparent feel of his fur, his sagging ears. The tightness in my chest calms, and he smiles his loose, open dog grin. To Zero, I'm no different than I was yesterday, before I married Jack, before I became queen. With Zero hovering at my side, I followed Jack through the town center, ducking through the last of the crowd, just as Lock, Shock, and Barrel, also known, woefully, as Boogie's boys, shout, "We'll miss you, Pumpkin Queen!" They've removed their trick-or-treat disguises, revealing their true faces, which are, somewhat perplexingly, identical to their masked facades, and they grin like the young children they are. Yet there's always a sly, crafty undertone hidden in their shimmering eyes that can't ever be trusted. It isn't their grins or their scheming giggles that sends a chill down the uneven stitching of my spine, however. It's the name they called me, Pumpkin Queen. It's the first time I've heard it said aloud, and it rings in my ears all the way into the forest, to the hinterlands, and the grove of 7 trees. "Are you sure it's safe?" I asked Jack, his face marred by shadows from the towering, spiny branches overhead. There was no wind in our walk through the woods, yet now the circle of trees shivers and vibrates, beckoning us closer. Jack taps a finger on the broad tree with a perfect heart, painted a buttery pink, carved at the center. We are standing in the circular grove of 7 trees that lead to 7 holidays, where last year Jack slipped into Christmastown and kidnapped Sandy Claus. I've never been outside Halloween Town, never ventured beyond its borders, and I spin around now, slightly breathless, marveling at each strange carved tree, each with its own peculiar doorway. A green 4-leaf clover adorns the tree for St. Patrick's Day. A red firework for the 4th of July. A giant turkey marks the entrance to Thanksgiving. A pale painted egg for Easter. A Christmas tree with tiny baubles and lights leads to Christmastown. And lastly, a grinning orange pumpkin for our home, Halloween Town. After a pause, Jack steps toward the painted heart doorway, a pink and white striped box set near the trunk of the tree. "Of course," he answers, and I can hear the excitement in his voice. He's been to all the holidays, all the towns, except this one. He's been saving this tree for me. I imagine Valentine's Town will be more wondrous than all the rest. And now we'll see it together. He kisses the back of my hand, eyes tumbling into mine. Then he tugs open the heart-shaped door nestled in the trunk of the tree. A wind coils out from inside, soft and warm, smelling faintly of sugar cookies and wild roses. I've never smelled anything so wondrous. Still, nervously, I spin the bone-white wedding band on my finger, my eyes tracing the deadly nightshade vines engraved along the outer edge, a plant that has meant freedom for me, a way to escape Dr. Finkelstein each time I poisoned him with nightshade from the garden. "You are free now," I reminded myself, because although there is a buzzing of curiosity in my chest, there are also nervous crow's wings flapping in my stomach. But when I lift my gaze to Jack, his moonless eyes settle the restless crows, and the corners of my mouth tip upward. I trust you, I say, because I do more than anything. Jack nods, stepping his long, spidery legs through the opening into the tree, and pulls me in after him. We fall headlong through the doorway, as if caught in a hollowed breeze, until at last we spill out the other side, landing in Valentine's Town, a place wholly unfamiliar and strange. Quickly, I run my fingers down my legs, checking my threads and seams to be sure none have split or tugged loose. Then I breathe in the gentle, sweet scent of sugared chocolate and roses in bloom. Surrounding us stands a grove of trees nearly identical to our own, 7 trees grown in a circle, one for each of the 7 holidays. Yet the forest overhead is thick with tall, swaying branches, green leaves, and tiny white flowers stirring loose with each gust of wind, nothing like the bony, leafless trees that populate the woods in Halloween Town. Jack weaves his fingers through mine, grinning curiously, like he's just sprung from a shadow and frightened a ghost back into the dark, one of his favorite pastimes. And we follow the winding path out of the forest, away from the grove of 7 trees. I run my fingertips along the dusty pink poppies and vibrant blood-red roses that line the path, and when we finally step free of the dense forest, I peer up at a cloudless sky shimmering a soft, airy pink. "It's daylight here," I comment, surprised. When we left Halloween Town, it was night. Every town has its own keeping of time, of surprises and sunrises and sunsets, Jack says, waving a hand toward the sky. They're called time zones. I squeeze his hand tighter, feeling briefly off center, like my seams are tugging too tightly against my skin. Traveling from one town to another, one time zone to another, is strangely disorienting, and my head whirls and spins as if I might tip over. "Where's their graveyard?" I ask as we follow the path through a rose-studded meadow, nearing the edge of the town. In Halloween Town, our graveyard rests on the outer border near the gate, where the howling voices of the dead can be heard echoing through the streets each night, and I expect to see one by now. If their cemetery is too far away, how will they ever be able to hear the tormented spirits of the dead? "Not every Halloween town has a graveyard," Jack explains, giving me a wink. "But look at all the hearts." He points a bone-sharp finger toward an iron gate up ahead. Hundreds of tiny hearts forged into the woven silvery metal. On either side of the gate sit 2 cherry-blossom trees, the branches grown, or maybe trimmed, into the shape of a massive, towering heart. It's an odd, unnatural sight, though certainly beautiful, and I wonder if there's a Valentine's town, or if here in Valentine's Town all plants grow into such unusual shapes. The trees sway and bob in the wind, releasing their tiny blossoms into the air. "What do the hearts mean?" I ask. "Apparently, Valentine's Day is a holiday that happens every February." Jack raises the bones above his eyes to his forehead, and humans surprise one another with sweets and roses and poorly written love poems. Why? "Who knows?" Jack grins, tossing his gaze toward the town. "But isn't it wonderful?" And truthfully, Valentine's Town is unexpectedly charming, in an odd sort of way. No sooty sky or charcoal buildings teetering in the distance, no rotted skulls or jack-o'-lanterns glowing sinisterly in the dark, no cackling ghouls or demons or grim reapers with hollowed-out eyes watching us from shadowed corners. In fact, there are no dark places at all. Instead, everything is bright and confectioner's sugary shiny. The air has a pinked, dreamy quality, a subtly sweet tinge, like rosebuds newly bloomed in spring, or the first lick of pumpkin pie filling on a spoon. It all seems twisted up and spit out wrong, yet my eyes sway from one hedged rosebush to another, my heart lilting in my chest in a way that makes me dizzy. This place is something entirely unfamiliar and undeniably delightful. We we pass through the Hartford gate, and I can feel my seams relax just a little, my dead leaves settling in my chest. When the sky is blotted out above us, a mass of birds flock toward the town, muttering the candy tint or muting the candy-tinted sun. When I squint up at them, trying to make sense of their odd shape, I realize that they're not birds at all. It's a flock of small baby-like creatures, 5 of them, fluttering above us, rosy-cheeked and plump-bellied, with tiny wooden bows and heart-shaped arrows strapped in sheaths at their small backs, white wings flapping. "What are they?" I ask. "No idea," Jack replies with a grin, "but they either don't notice us or don't care," and they continue their flight toward the shimmering mass of buildings ahead. The worn dirt path soon becomes a cobblestone street, taking us straight into the heart of Valentinestown, and my eyes widen, not wanting to miss a single detail of the white, chalky stoned homes that line the street. They look almost edible, with pink tiled roofs and heart-framed windows, and the stained glass reminds me of melted sugar, like you could press your tongue to it and it would surely taste sweet. I feel myself grinning as widely as Jack, urging him on until at last we reach the town center, marked by a stone fountain with a carved cherry-cheeked baby at the top, identical to the flock of baby creatures we saw flying overhead just outside of town. I lean against the edge of the fountain, peering down at the water, which glistens a pale candy pink, nothing like the swampy green fountain back in Halloween Town, my reflection staring back. "Do you think we can drink it?" I ask, inching my hand closer to the water, certain it will taste like icing and marigold petals. But before my fingertips can break the surface, a cool, velvety voice speaks behind us. It's nice to see 2 lovers in town. I straighten and look up, and up, until at last meeting the gaze of a woman who is a good foot taller than Jack. She is a tower, wearing a long chiffon gown with tiny white embroidered hearts stitched into the cream fabric of her skirt. Her strawberry red hair is coiled up into a honeycomb beehive, with a gold heart beret clipped softly at her temple. "Visiting from elsewhere?" she asks vaguely, tapping her rosebud lips with a long painted fingernail. Her skin is a soft pinkish hue, as if she's been eating too many rose petals and it has begun to change the color of her flesh. "I'm Jack Skellington," my husband announces, sticking out his hand, "the Pumpkin King from Halloween Town. And this is my bride, Sally, the Pumpkin Queen." "Yes, yes, good," she replies, ignoring his hand, as if she's uninterested in our names or the details of why we're here. She cares more about her own introduction. "I'm Queen Ruby Valentino, and this is my town." She trails a long, elegant hand along one side of her dress in a flourished, wide-sweeping curtsy. I marvel at how poised she is, abloom with confidence. Even the features of her face are neat and organized, not a stray freckle out of place. She has a visage of what I've imagined perfect royal etiquette might look like, and I suddenly feel quite unqueenlike in her presence. It's our first visit to Valentine's Town, Jack replies cheerfully, shoulders back, undaunted by this woman's regal demeanor. But Ruby's eyes suddenly snap away from us. Gosh, she explains. A bleeding heart. Paolo! Paolo! I told you to rip those out as soon as you see them. A slim, high-waisted man appears as if he'd been crouched behind Ruby, waiting any command she might thrust upon him. Wearing an apron, a straw sun hat, and long pale slacks, and clutching a pair of garden shears in his dirt-stained hand, he wipes at his forehead quickly. So sorry, Your Royal Highness. I must have missed this one. Ruby gracefully bends toward the ground, despite her heavy gown and high heels, plucking a single flower with a blood-red center that has begun growing up between the stone pavers that surround the fountain. She holds the flower up for us to see. Can't have these bleeding hearts growing so near the fountain, she says, her mouth contorting into a disgusted little sneer. I blink at the tiny, harmless-looking flower pinched between her fingers, summoning the question inside me as if I'm a child afraid to speak. Why's that? My voice sounds much too small, meager, and weak. Not the words of a queen. Ruby flicks her gaze to me, her sneer softening. The cherubs dip their arrows into the fountain, of course. She says it like I should already know this, and I gaze down into the water, light shimmering across the surface, like little pink diamonds. Our love potion bubbles up from the natural spring beneath the fountain. She raises her perfectly plucked eyebrows at me. If a bleeding heart flower makes its way into the fountain, then everyone who is struck by a cherub's arrow on Valentine's Day would suffer a broken heart instead of falling in love. She tosses the flower onto the ground and crushes it with the toe of her lollipop red high-heeled shoe. When she lifts her foot, Paolo, the man who stands with hands wringing behind her, quickly skitters forward and retrieves the flattened flower from the ground. I'll burn it immediately, he says, then scurries off. Ruby smiles softly, pleased, then tilts her gaze back at Jack and me. Do you have a place to stay? Jack clears his throat. Not yet. Follow me, she says with a flourish, her voice now a sing-song, a collection of musical notes as though a bird is resting at the back of her throat. And she leads us away from the fountain. We pass a cafe where the scent of rising dough fills the air, and a dentist's office with a painted window that reads "Half-Price Cavity Repair." Then, in smaller print, "Free lollipop with each tooth removal." The people who stroll past us, doughy-eyed and full-cheeked, always seem to be in pairs, arms woven together, secret words whispered into each other's ears. They sit side by side on cafe patios, faces nestled together, kisses planted on bare necks, and many of them have tulips pinned at their lapels or tucked neatly into shirt pockets, while others have wild flowers braided into their hair. Love is imbued into every seam and stitch of this town. It's inescapable. And I feel the dead leaves in my chest swelling and swimming at the sight of it all. Another block more, and Ruby stops in front of a brick building. Above us, the swaying wooden sign reads Lovebird Inn. Wait here, she says, winking, then disappears into the narrow doorway. Moments later, she reappears, clutching a silver key. You'll be staying in one of the cottages around back. They're perfectly quaint and well appointed. You should be quite happy there. Jack smiles, taking the key from her. Splendid. Thank you. Ruby resecures a stray pin that has come loose from her wavy cherry-red hair just as her eyes flash upward. Slow down, she shouts. Above us, a clot of the winged babies flutter over the town, before disappearing into the distance. Ruby lets out an irritated sigh. The cherubs are so unruly this time of year, restless little troublemakers. She gives me a look, as if I should have an idea of what she's talking about. They grow bored with nothing to do, just waiting for February, for Valentine's Day, so they fly in packs, stirring up all sorts of mischief. She blows out a quick breath through her nostrils. Cherubs can only be trusted on Valentine's Day. The rest of the year, they're an awful nuisance. Ruby peers at me with her soft chocolate eyes, gaze roving from my feet to the top of my head, like she's surveying my appearance for the first time. She tilts her head and plants a delicate hand on her hips. Your hair is a little dull for a queen. She remarks, my stylist could weave in a few curls. Make a highlight or two. Have you looking a little more. She taps a fingernail against her bottom lip. Well, like me. A smile sparks in her clear, dewy eyes. I'd be happy to make an appointment for you while you're here. I shake my head quickly, not liking the prying feel of her eyes on me, the sharp, appraising look. I don't think I start picking at the loose thread on my left wrist, making it worse. No, thank you. She shrugs, turning her attention up the street, where two lovers are entangled in the doorway of a chocolate shop. A tall, lean, dark-haired man reciting words to a man with curly blond hair and freckles. A poem that it seems he's written himself, the words scribbled into a pink piece of paper he holds in his palm. Ruby sighs softly, as if caught in the sweetness of the moment, the tenderness between two people madly, deliriously in love. She wipes at her eye, as if a tear is about to fall. Then she turns to look back at Jack and me. Say, she begins, her eyelashes flitting, you two wouldn't happen to know someone named William Shakespeare? Jack lifts the bones above his hollow eyes. Sorry, no. Ruby lets out a long, troubled sigh, puckering her full, painted lips. He writes the most beautiful sonnets, and I'm certain he's my one true love, but I'm having a terrible time finding him. Jack pauses, and we share a look. There are many books in Jack's library written by William Shakespeare, beautiful, often tragic stories, but they are rather old, and I'm certain William Shakespeare is good and dead, quite some time ago now. But I give Jack a quick shake of my head, not wanting to break Ruby's heart by telling her as much. If we come across him, Jack adds, with a gentle smile, we'll certainly send him your way. Thank you. Ruby's mouth curves upward, even while her eyes betray a glimmer of sadness. I hope you both enjoy your stay with us. It should be a lovely day to stroll the city. Make sure you stop at Romeo's Delicatessen. They make the most divine caramel teardrops you've ever had in your life. I have no idea what a caramel teardrop is, but I'm certain Romeo's Delicatessen is named after Romeo from Shakespeare's play Romeo and Juliet, a reminder of the man who Ruby has never met but loves anyway. She gives us a quick curtsy before turning away and sauntering down the cobblestone street. I watch her a moment as she stops to speak to shop owners and townspeople, shaking hands, a queenly silhouette against the sugared, half-carved or heart-carved backdrop of her town. I'm certain I don't cast quite as striking a queenly figure in Halloween Town. I'm all rounded edges and dead leaves spilling out from loosened seams. I am nothing like her. A sharp blade of doubt edges into my thoughts. Maybe I'm more unprepared for this role than I realized. But Jack folds his hand over mine, and the look of excitement in his eyes forces my own stirring thoughts to retreat. We find the path that winds around Lovebird Inn, to where a dozen small cottages sit like kisses nestled between tall grass and rustling white pine trees. Jack slides the key into the lock of cottage number 5, sets on the far left of the others. Who else comes to stay here? I ask curiously. Anyone, I suppose, he says. Those from other holidays who pass through the doorways and want a weekend away in vacation. We push into the little cottage, and are met with the soft scent of vanilla jasmine candles and rose petals scattered along the wood floor. Jack places our suitcase beside the bed. "Why does no one come to Halloween Town to visit?" I ask, walking to the lace curtain and pulling it back to look out on Valentine's Town. "We don't have an inn." Jack's eyes lift, his peculiar smile curling upward. "But perhaps we should. Tourism might be good for the town." I let the curtain fall back into place, and Jack crosses the room, taking my hands in his. "There's so much to see," he says at last, kissing my palm, "and not a moment to waste." With our suitcase now deposited into our cottage, we venture back out into Valentine's Town. The day is a whirlwind of chocolate confections dipped in hazelnuts and caramelized brown sugar, raspberries coated in white chocolate, and chalky little hearts with words stamped onto their surfaces. Love bug, sweet pea, XOXO. We can eat them by the handful, our cheeks flushed from the sugar, chests thumping wildly. We even pass a factory where the hearts are made, stacks of little pink boxes lined up in the windows, surely to be delivered to the human world once Valentine's Day arrives. "Even the air smells sweet," I say, popping a cherry truffle into my mouth as we wander the cobbled streets, feeling the chocolate break apart on my tongue. Jack takes my hand and twirls me in a circle. "I knew you would love it here. I think how heavenly it must be to nibble on tiny cakes and swirled caramels and plum ginger puffs all day, tea with lemon petit fours in the afternoon, after dinner mint truffles with butterscotch coffee in the evening. My mind swims with the notion of it, the easy, sugar-induced lull that would follow me into candy-tinted dreams each night. Life here, in Valentine's Town, would surely be simple and uncomplicated. Outside a small patisserie, the window display filled with trays of butter cookies. A squat woman is ordering a box of meringues from the gray mustached man in the doorway, and beside her is a lace-trimmed pram filled with 3 wailing babies. They all have a twirl of dark hair atop their otherwise bald heads, skin the color of figs, just like the woman, with lips stained a bright pink and a dusting of powdered sugar along their lips and white bibs. I bend down and touch the chubby hand of one of the crying infants, and it immediately grabs my pointed finger and squeezes, giggling, showing its gummy, toothless mouth. The other 2 infants stop crying and peer up at me with their moon saucer eyes, all 3 gazing at me as if they were looking at the night sky in wonder. "Well done," the squat woman remarks, nodding down at me. "They usually don't quiet for anything but sweets. But they certainly like you." She places her box of cookies atop the little awning of the pram. "Are they cherubs?" I ask, curious why these babies are tucked into a pram, while we've seen others flying through town with tiny bows and arrows. "They will be, once they grow their wings," she answers, bending down to straighten the white ruffled tunic on the 3rd baby in the back. "Have a sweet day," she says to me, smiling, before starting to push the pram away. The baby releases my finger and begins making a fussing sound, followed by a full wail, but the woman keeps pushing them up the cobbled street, humming to the infants in the gentle, sugary sing-song. I wonder if someday Jack and I will have our own pram filled with tiny skeletons and rag dolls. The scuttle of little feet through the house. Skeleton boys tumbling down the spiral stairs, little rag doll girls with their threads coming loose, always needing their fingers and toes stitched back together. A perfect grim little family. Jack plucks a single lavender rose growing beside the patisserie, then holds it out to me. "For the Queen of Halloween Town," he says with a goofy little tip of his head, as if he likes the sound of it. Queen. But the word echoes along the walls of my fabric insides, making me shiver. Still, I take the flower from him and bring it to my nose. All soft petals and a silky springtime scent. Jack weaves his fingers back through mine and whisks me up the street, away from the main center of town, and down a winding path through a thicket of stargazer flowers that opens up to a wide river. 4 small wooden boats sit tied to the shore, and Jack climbs into the bow of one with a lavender heart painted on the side, then takes hold of an oar. I don't think we should, I say. We don't know who they belong to. We'll only borrow it, he replies with a wink, and I can't help smiling back. He takes my hand and helps me into the teetering little boat. We push off from shore, and I dip my hand down into the water, but the surface is thick like mud. What is it? I ask. Jack runs a finger along the top, then brings it to his mouth. Chocolate. He sinks his hand in again, then leans forward to place a dollop of warm, melted chocolate on the end of my nose. I laugh, wiping it clean, then scooping up a handful of the chocolate river and lob it in his direction. He ducks just in time, barely missing it and grinning wildly, but he doesn't see the next wad of chocolate I launch toward him, and it splats right across his bone-white face. A deep, rolling belly laugh rises inside me, and I buckle forward, giggling so hard I fear I might split one of my seams. Jack is still laughing when I climb over the narrow bench seat separating us and kiss him squarely in the lips, tasting the sugary sweetness of dark chocolate. Thank you for bringing me here, I whisper against his mouth. He smiles. We can spend our lives exploring the other holidays together as king and queen. He kisses me again, his hand tracing the seam along my right cheekbone. But the word catches in my chest again. Queen. Like a thorn pricking at my linen flesh, digging in deeper, burrowing. I can't seem to shake it. I'm still not used to it, I admit softly, leaning back against the side of the boat. What? Jack asks, being called a queen. Jack rests the oars on the edge of the boat and leans forward, letting the current pull us through the canals of Valentine's Town, along the boardwalk, lined with cafes and chocolate shops, and even a greeting card store, with handmade paper cards fluttering in the window. Halloween Town has never had a queen before, he says, tracing the stitching along my palm with his bony finger. You are the first. His dark, moonless eyes stare into mine, rooting me to him, and I feel a comfort in his gaze I've never known in anything else. You are now the queen of all of Halloween. I bite the side of my cheek, lowering my chin. What if I don't know how to be queen? What if I do it wrong? I peer at Jack through my eyelashes, afraid to meet his gaze dead on. Ruby Valentino was so charming and flawless and queen-like, and I don't know if I can be like that. Jack reveals a half smirk, glancing at me through his hooded eyes. You are not the queen of Valentine's Town. You are the queen of Halloween Town. He lifts his chin and smiles fully. And since you are the very first queen, you get to decide how you want to rule. He kisses my palm, lingering there, before lifting his eyes to mine again. You are the Pumpkin Queen, Sally. You can do whatever you want. I nod, wanting to believe him, needing to, because the doubt churning in my stomach feels like tomb beetles tunneling through a corpse in the graveyard, breaking me apart. He shifts closer, the boat rocking beneath us, and he kisses me again, the coolness of his lips soothing my rumbling thoughts for the tiniest of moments. He kisses me deeper, wrapping his palm around my back, along the seam of my spine, and I feel anchored to him, my fabric flesh bound to the cold of his skeleton bones. His fingers find my neck, my jaw, and I feel myself breaking, melting, sinking beneath his touch. Like he will never let me go. Like we will stay this way forever, drifting down a chocolate river. I tell myself to forget who I'm supposed to be, because right now I am simply a rag doll in a boat with a skeleton whom I love, madly, feverishly, floating through a town where my title doesn't matter. Queen, 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 where no one knows who I am. At last, Jack lifts his mouth from mine, and little sparks blink behind my threaded eyes. I want to pull him back to me, Tell him not to let me go, but the boat has shifted, slowed against a clot of chocolate truffles along the bank, and Jack lifts the oars, steering us back into the center of the river, where the chocolate current takes us beyond the edge of town, winding into a small rose-hued forest. I sink back against the bow of the boat, letting my arm drape over the side, watching Jack row with each perfect stroke of his arms, a bead of sweat glinting on his forehead. I tilt my eyes back and stare up at the perfectly blue sky, wanting to lose myself in a daydream, in the foolish idea that we could stay here in Valentine Town forever. Two cherubs flutter past overhead, a thin line of heart glitter trailing down behind them. I like it here, in the quiet of this strange forest where pink tulips grow wild beneath the canopy of trees, and hearts have been carved out into the white elms with the names etched into the bark, Jack and Sally forever. We watch the cotton candy pink sunset fade beyond the trees outside town, sipping glasses of muddled tulip wine, then collapse into the feathery soft bed inside the cottage, giggling, hands entwined, and I'm certain no moment could ever be as perfect as this. The swimming in my chest, Jack reciting nonsense poems, then laughing to himself. I want this to last forever. I want it to always be just Jack and me, side by side, until the end of time. But when I finally drift off to sleep, my dreams are fitful and strange. I dream of Halloween Town pulled into a nameless darkness. I wander the streets alone, struggling to make sense of each building, calling out to Jack, searching for him, in the shadowed darkness of our home, in Dr. Finkelstein's lab, even on Spiral Hill where we shared our first kiss. I grow desperate, fear edging along my seams. I stand in the center of town, and I scream. The echo of it rattles in my ears, my chest, and I bolt awake. The blankets pulled up to my throat, Jack sound asleep beside me. I relax my fingers against the pale pink blankets, embroidered with little hearts, and turn onto my side, peering at the small square window. A dim pastel light is breaking through the trees, slanting into our little cottage. It's already morning. But my dream of Halloween Town, of the darkness that slunk along dusty corners, a terror building in my throat, lingers inside me, unshakable. Jack stirs beside me, reaching out a hand to stroke his fingers through my hair. "Good morning, wife," he says softly. I turn to meet his eyes, the coldness rimmed around their dark center, familiar in a way I don't think I will ever tire of. "Good morning, husband," I echo. He pulls me closer, and we stay this way for a time, his breath against my ear, a moment I don't dare shatter with words, by telling him of the dream, of the nerves bouncing along my stitched ribs. But soon the birds begin to clatter from the trees, or chatter from the trees, and the sounds of Valentine's Town waking echo through the streets, reaching us in the quiet of the cottage. Our honeymoon is over. After a breakfast of butterscotch pancakes, with caramel syrup, Jack carries our suitcase through the cottage door, and we make our way beyond the edge of Valentine's Town, back to the grove of 7 trees. I pause and glance over my shoulder, the scent of sugar cookies dipped in chocolate hanging in the air. I still hold the lavender rose Jack picked for me yesterday, but the farther we walk from Valentine's Town, the more the petals begin to wilt, turning dry in my hand. It won't last. By the time we return to Halloween Town, it will surely be dead. A flower that is only meant for this world. "Ready to go home?" Jack said, with a grin once we've entered the circle of trees. "I wish we could stay a little longer," I admit. He pulls open the door with the orange pumpkin etched into it. "Halloween is only 2 weeks away," he reminds me. "We need to get back." I nod, tilting my eyes up to the branches one last time, where the wind has shaken loose molecule-sized flowers and set them free on the warm air. "But we'll return," he assures, holding out his hand for me. I had been nervous about leaving Halloween Town. But now, only a day later, I find I'm not ready to go back. Still, I take Jack's hand and we step through the small doorway, a whirl of tiny pumpkins spinning past my vision, and in an instant we're whisked back to Halloween Town. "They're back!" one of the vampire brothers exclaims. "How many witches were there?" the witch sisters ask in unison, scuttling up to Jack and me as soon as we enter Town Square. Were they as hideous as us? "Were there any walking dead?" Mummy Boy mumbles between his thick layers of cotton, his single eyeball blinking. "I bet there were red-eyed demons like me," the winged demon remarks, nodding with certainty. But Corpse Kid shakes his hand. "No way. I bet there were girl demons." I force a smile as the town residents surround us, shouting their questions, wanting us to describe Valentine's Town in detail. My head pulses, and I crave the dark quiet of our home atop Skull Hill. But Jack grins at the town. "We did see a few winged babies," he said with a wink, patting Corpse Kid on his pale bald head. "Did they have fangs?" the winged demon asks. "Or poisonous horns?" Corpse Kid suggests. But Jack shakes his head. "They're called cherubs, and they make people fall in love." At once, the faces of the crowd pucker in disgust. "Gross!" the winged demon says, sticking out his forked tongue. "But how many ghouls do they have?" Mummy Boy asks. "How many pumpkins and graveyards and deathly crawly things?" Jack lets out a little chuckle, lifting his palms in the air. "All in good time," he assures them. "I will tell you everything we've seen. But for now, let us get resettled." Still, they clamored around us. "Pumpkin Queen!" someone calls over the others. I turn, and there's a sudden flash of a camera. It's the clown with the tearaway face, wheeling close on his unicycle, holding a camera to his yellow eyes, and snapping another photo of Jack and me. It's for the front cover of tomorrow's Ghosts and Ghouls newspaper. He shouts to us, his unicycle tire briefly lodging itself in a street crack before he wobbles free. Everyone wants to hear about the royal couple's trip. Jack grins at the clown and exclaims wonderful. But I feel wholly overwhelmed. Too many hands reach out for us, touching the fabric of my dress, as if I'm someone new and unfamiliar they've never seen before, as if I'm not the same person I was before I married Jack, before yesterday. They push one another aside, trying to get closer, to see me better, and I hate the way it makes me feel, examined, scrutinized, as though I am some nighttime creature they have caught in their net and are about to dissect. I push my way behind Jack, and as we finally approach the gate to Skull Hill, the procession following close behind. "Jack!" the mayor shouts, waiting for us at the metal gate, tapping nervously at the orange ribbon on his coat pocket that reads Mayor, lest anyone should forget. Sorry, Amar. "We have many things we must discuss. Halloween is only 2 weeks away." "Yes, of course," Jack replies. "Come inside." I wince, my stomach plummeting. I want nothing more than to shut the door of our home, sink into the quiet, and be alone with Jack. But the mayor waddles in behind us, his cone-shaped head barely squeezing through the doorway, and several others bustle in behind him, including the two witch sisters and the oldest vampire brother. "Sally, I mean Queen," the mayor corrects himself, clearing his throat. "These distinguished ladies and gentlemen have many things to show you. There isn't much time." "For what?" I ask, backing away from the mayor, hoping I can slip through one of the shadowy doorways and escape his frenzied, swivel-eyed gaze. "As Queen, you will be organizing the All Hallows Eve party in the cemetery this year. It's quite an honor. Plus, there are the new curtain swatches to be decided on. You can't possibly live in this house without redecorating." And your new gown, the witch sisters say in unison. I swallow down the scrambling, thorny ache forming in my throat, and feel for the seam on my wrist, picking at the thread, tugging at it, worrying it loose. I don't need a new gown. The mayor's face jerks around quickly, revealing his sharp, pointy teeth and a deep, grisly frown. Nonsense! You're the Pumpkin Queen now. You can't keep wearing that tattered old thing. He nods at my patchwork dress, the one I have restitched so many times that I am certain none of the fabric patches are the originals, the black as night thread barely keeping it together. Must anything change at all? I ask, my voice too thin, like air slipping through cracks on a winter night. Like I'm unsure of my own words. I don't think the house needs new curtains either. The vampire lowers his black umbrella, his shield from the cruel sunlight when he's outdoors, and folds it into a narrow point before walking to the front window, touching the old black curtains with his thin fingertips and making a tisk tisk sound, like he's never seen anything quite so horrid in his long, long life. Maybe we could at least wait until tomorrow, I suggest, backing away toward the spiral stairs. Start in the morning? I don't want a new dress, new curtains, or to make plans for a party. I just want to be alone with Jack for a little longer. Pretend we're back in Valentine's Town, drifting lazily down the chocolate river, his eyes settled on mine, making me feel safe, making me feel at home, with none of the obligations waiting for us here. But the mayor waves a hand at me. No, no, there's no time to waste. And before I can protest further, he has turned his attention to Jack, who has already started down the hall toward his library, mumbling to himself as he thumbs through the scrolls of diagrams and sketches for the fast approaching Halloween holiday, already lost in his work. Alone with the witch sisters and the vampire, I think I can make my escape. I slink away into the kitchen, or even a closet, while where I will hide and wait for them all to leave, for hours or days if I must. A queen hiding in her own home. But the taller of the two sisters grabs my wrist with her sharp fingertips, pinching my fabric tightly, then leads me up the stairwell to the bedroom Jack and I share. I let out a little squeak, but I don't fight her. The sun dips below the horizon, giving way to the night, and in the bedroom the fireplace crackles and spits out sparks into the rug, while the stone gargoyles scowl down at us from the ceiling, and I feel at once like a prisoner in my own home, confined by the sisters and the vampire, blocking the stairs. Stand up straight, the other witch instructs, even though she is a good foot shorter than me, her heavy black hair sticking out from beneath her pointed hat like an overgrown blackberry bush. A queen should certainly have better posture than yours. She jabs me in the ribs with her long index finger, like nail, or her nail like a metal spike. And better hair. The first witch chimes in, taking a strand of my straight rose-red hair between her fingers and making a disappointed grunting sound. Her own ghost-white hair is just as unruly as her sister's. My broomstick has silkier, my broomstick is silkier than this. They both cackle, buckling over at their shared joke. The witch sisters are surely young and wartless once, but now they are bent at the shoulders, wiry and hollow-eyed like dusty relics. Their joints crack and pop as they scuttle around me, and their breath is like a bog, yet they have no problem pointing out my apparent flaws, as if I am a sad, lost cause. Before I married Jack, the witch sisters never seemed to notice me. I was as unimportant to them as a scarab beetle crushed beneath their shiny black shoes. But now, between grumbles of annoyance and snickering laughter, they drape black chiffon across my torso, then pin it to my patchwork dress, as if I am, well, a rag doll, accustomed to the pricks of needle points. They stand back to admire their work before repinning and fussing and adjusting seams. The vampire ignores their wheezing laughs and juts out his long gray chin as he steps forward to place an oversized black feathered hat atop my head. But when I catch my reflection in the slender mirror beside the bedroom closet, I see that it's not a hat at all. It's a crown. The vampire tilts it a little to the left, then forward, so that it's slumped partly over my eyelashes. We want you to feel perfectly queenly, he says, blinking his milky white eyes at me. I grimaced at the word. Always the same word, queen, as I push the crown higher onto my head, away from my eyes. But I feel like an imposter. I look like one too. The witch sisters cease their laughing to appraise the crown. If you don't like the crow feathers, one witch says, giving me a curious look, I have a raven in the street this morning, or I saw a raven in the street this morning, nearly dead. It would look lovely in your pale complexion. I scratched at the side of the crown, where my hair is tugging against the feathers. Must I wear a crown at all? The vampire gasps, then clutches a hand to his mouth as if I have personally offended him. Jack doesn't wear a crown, I point out. The witch sisters exchange quick looks, their laughter gone, their raised warts gleaming in the moonlight through the window. The vampire paces in front of me, arms crossed, his sharp black hairline drawn down. Crowns are all the fashion for queens this day. How would you know what the latest fashions are? I ask, a rotting discomfort growing inside me, an itch at the base of my neck, like the walls are shrinking, tipping closer, and soon they will crush me into a heap of chiffon and crow wings. None of you have ever been outside Halloween Town, I continue, my voice rising, sounding stronger now, but the room only grows smaller, the seams along my chest tighten until it feels impossible to suck in a breath. You've never even met a real queen before. I have, but I didn't tell them this, about my meeting with Ruby Valentino, because I have no interest in wearing cherry red high heels and a bouffant glittery crown that sweeps around me like a broom whenever I walk. Surely such a gown, or glittery gown, sorry, and a bouffant glittery gown that sweeps around me like a broom whenever I walk. Surely such a gown would only gather up beetles and spiders at its hemline, a place for insects to nest and make their home. I don't need any of this, I say instead, my head dizzy, my throat dry, like I've swallowed down spoonfuls of dust. One witch's expression curdles. Her sister's mouth falls open. With the chiffon fabric still pinned across my patchwork dress, and a crow feather crown tipping to one side of my head, I start to back away from them, toward the doorway, feeling trapped like a pigeon in an attic, wings useless, eyes darting for a way free. The trio stare back at me, eyes blinking, but before they can argue that this is for my own good, I slip out into the hall and scramble down the staircase, tripping on the layers of chiffon. At the end of the hall, I duck into Jack's library, breathing deeply. Jack and the mayor are hunched over the unrolled sketches and blueprints spread out on the lopsided wood table, talking quickly, heads close together, while Jack uses a squid ink pen to take notes in the margins. Perhaps we should use twice as many spiders this year, Jack is saying. Tuck them into the corners of every bedroom. The mayor nods. Cobwebs are always a success, he replies, tapping a finger against the table. And remember, production is down with candy corn this year, so we'll need to find an alternative. Jack straightens. Is the swamp still running low on sugared wax? Afraid so. But we have an idea for making candies shaped like bat heads. Jack rubs anxiously at his forehead, bone against bone. Do we have enough black tar for that? I'll check with Cyclops, but last week he assured me that the tar pits were as deep as ever. Good, Jack says, releasing his hand. Now, about the Wolfmen. I heard he has a sore throat, and isn't sure if he'll be able to howl at the moon this year. Is that true? The mayor starts to speak, but I step into the room, cutting him off. Jack, I say softly, I need to speak with you. He turns and smiles when he sees me, eyes lighting up. I I step farther into the room, into the lamplight. I don't really feel like myself in all this. I lift the edges of the black chiffon gown for him to see, the layers like a lace cake, or cobwebs stretched thin, the crow feather crown now slumped to one side, slipping down my too straight hair. Jack raises a bone above his eyes, mouth puckering to one side. He muses, crossing the library to touch the length of the fabric stretched and pinned across my shoulder. It does seem a little strange, a little too, he considers the right word, formal? Perhaps a different fabric. I swallow and shake my head. Jack, I don't think, but the mayor cuts me off. They're doing the best they can with the fabric they have, Jack. The mayor's face has spun around again, all jagged teeth and worried eyes. Halloween and a queen, all in less than a month. It's a lot for a town to organize. We're stretched thin as it is. Jack nods. Yes, of course. I know I'm asking a lot of everyone. It's not the fabric, I start, but Jack takes my hand in his. I want you to have anything you feel, or I want you to have anything you need to feel like a queen, he says. A new dress, new shoes, whatever you want. Perhaps you can suggest to them a different style, or a crown that's a little less. He taps his fingers to his chin. I don't want any of these things, I interject, shaking my head. I don't want a crown at all. He tilts his gaze, like he's finally starting to understand, to see the worry dampening my eyes. Jack, please, the mayor says from the table. You've already been gone for your honeymoon. We don't have time to argue over dress fabrics. Yes, yes, Jack replies, nodding back at the mayor. Then he turns his focus to me, taking my hands in his. We'll discuss it tonight, he says, winking at me. I only want you to be happy, he says softly, so only I can hear. Then he kisses my palm, soft and sweet. But all too quickly he turns back to the mayor, resuming their conversation about how many pumpkins should be carved, and how many beetle wax candles to place in each. I tuck my mouth to one side, the unease still writhing inside me, and I slip out into the hall, where the witch sisters and the vampire are coming down the stairs. Pumpkin Queen, they call, in a chirpy song, let us show you the fish leather shoes we've prepared for you. The heel is impossibly tall and terribly uncomfortable. We think you'll love it. I don't wait for them to reach the bottom of the stairs. I don't bother protesting. Instead, I dash past them and yank open the front door, ducking out into the dim evening light. I have to get away from Halloween Town. Away from everyone. My mind hisses with overcrowded thoughts, like poison bubbling over, left to simmer too long on a crackling fire. I wanted this, didn't I? To marry Jack? But I never truly wanted to be queen. I was happy to remain a rag doll, imperfect, broken in places, hair straight as a board and dry as a bone, a girl unchanged. But that's not true either. I was never content in my life before Jack, never satisfied to remain trapped in Dr. Finkelstein's lab, never liked the idea of being built, molded, sewn together by a mad scientist in a cold, damp lab on a dark, rain-drenched night. I wanted something else, something more than the life I was given. But now I'm queen, and it feels like there are pieces missing between my two lives, seams not properly folded together, jagged and knotted, parts of myself I don't quite understand. Night lies heavy over Halloween Town, and I make my way quickly along the outer edge of town, through long, sinister shadows until I reach the cemetery. Zero appears in the doorway of his small tombstone doghouse. Eyes black as night, ears raised, he zips after me, nose glowing golden orange in the dark, and together we cross over the narrow stone bridge, leaving Halloween Town behind. I pass into the starless gloom of the forest. I need the quiet of the forest, the cool night air to fold itself over me and make me feel safe, sheltered, invisible. Only a rag doll, nothing more. Dr. Finkelstein used to call me a foolish dreamer. He said I spent too much time in the garden, or peering up at the night stars, a girl who lives inside her own head. I knew that my life would change when I married Jack, that it wouldn't be a simple elf princess and her frog prince kind of fairy tale, but I hadn't imagined this, that I would finally be free of Dr. Finkelstein, but still not feel like myself, a girl whose life had always been decided for her, and would discover the same dark prison walls once she became queen. And I wonder, do other queens and princesses and duchesses feel as I do? In other realms, other times, have they peered at the reflections in ponds and warm bath water, in magic mirrors, and wondered who they've become, how they lost the girl they once were, certain that they are more than a puppet, strings yanked this way and that, pulling them apart? Does Ruby Valentino catch sight of herself in a shop window from time to time, and not recognize the woman staring back? You still think I'm the same girl, don't you, Zero? I ask as we make our way deeper into the woods, under the cover of starlight and swaying bare branches. Zero's nose glows brighter, and I run a hand along his pale ghost body. He is both solid and made of cool winter air, and sometimes I swear I can feel his ears beneath my palm, while other times my fingers pass right through. He is both here and not here, alive and dead, and right now he feels like my only friend, the only one who thinks I'm unchanged, made of the same linen and blue thread. Everyone else in Halloween Town seems to think I am someone entirely new, a girl with a royal title whose hair should be like silken threads of a spider's web, with coffin-straight posture and a crown of feathers atop her head. But I am not these things. The leafless branches of the forest cast long vertebrae shadows across the ground, and I tear away the black chiffon fabric pinned over my patchwork dress, leaving it in a heap behind me. I rip off the crown and toss it into a thorn bush, where it snags on a branch and hangs there like tinsel on a tree. With Zero zipping along beside me, I break into a run, wanting to feel the cold night wind against my patchwork seams, needing to feel the distance between myself and the town. The sky is speckled with needle pricks of starlight, even though the moon is hidden beyond a low layer of clouds. I know the path ahead through the trees. I follow it down a low gully, then up the other side, where the branches hang and stoop like old cobwebs after it rains. The air turns cool, and at last I arrive at the grove of 7 trees, the place where Jack and I stepped through the heart-carved tree into Valentine's town, as if my legs have led me here without real purpose. Zero hovers nervously beside me, looking back down the path the way we came. He doesn't like it here, in the dark of the trees, so far from town, but as I walk into the center of the grove, running my palm down the trunk of each tree, feeling their carved bark made smooth by each symbol, a green 4-leaf clover, an egg decorated in hues of pink and blue, I stop at the rose-red heart, the entrance into Valentine's town. I could open the doorway and slip back into its realm. I could escape for a day or two, pretend I am someone else. Maybe I could even find Ruby Valentino, tell her that I'm not sure I want to be a queen, that I don't even know how, and she will offer up some advice to calm this ache in my chest, this nagging, prodding sense that perhaps I am living the wrong life. Maybe I don't belong in either place, in either life, a girl in Dr. Finkelstein's lab, or a queen. I touch the shiny golden doorknob, already smelling the sugary sweetness, the hint of caramel and rose petals, when Zero lets out a quick, high-pitched bark. I drop my hand, turning, but he's nowhere in sight. The wind sails along the branches, and he barks again, somewhere beyond the grove of trees, deeper into the woods. I follow the sound, across a barren stream, through dead autumn leaves where no path marks the way, into a part of the forest where I've never been, a darker part, a quieter part, where even the shadows have no shape, where even the crows don't dare roost. Only darkness lives here, in the eerie calm and quiet of these bare trees. Curiosity will be the devil of you, or the death, whichever comes first, Dr. Finkelstein told me once. It was a warning to keep my restless mind from wandering into places it didn't belong, to stay quiet and stay put. But I was never any good at either. Zero barks again, an excited yip like he's found a freshly rotted bone, and I step around a thick thicket of thorny vines. But when I spot him, it's not a bone or a carcass he's standing over. He's facing a clot of brambles and briars. Nothing that seems like anything. Nothing out of place. Come on, Zero, I call, patting my leg. But he begins tugging at the interwoven vines, biting at the long dead brambles and yanking them back. I step closer, squinting through the dark, wishing I'd brought a candle. And then, at last, through the strange, formless shadows, I see it. A tree. It's not just any spiny tree. Something is carved into the trunk. A smooth, purposeful etching, just like the 7 trees in the grove. I've been yanking away the last of the briars, thorns snagging at my linen flesh, my bare legs, pulling at my seams. But I keep going. I need to see. I need to know for sure. And when enough of the choking vines have been torn away, I blink, refocus. To be sure it's real. A blue crescent moon has been carved into the rough, worn surface of the bark. It's a tree like the others. A doorway. An entrance into another town. I feel like that's actually a good spot to stop right there. Hopefully you guys liked it so far. You guys still there? Yeah, giving it Cliffy. Um, oh yeah, tomorrow, Saturday. I am so sorry, Amar. It's okay, Bobo. It is what it is. Um, I will be uploading it to YouTube. So if you want to catch the entire thing later, you can go to my YouTube and Bobo, what did you send me? Oh my god. Bobo, what is that? No. No, Bobo. Oh my god. Oh jeez. How dare. No. No. Oh my gosh. Oh, my head. Anyway, hopefully you guys liked it. Um, I know it's a very short stream, but I figured that would be a neat, little cliffhanger to end on. And, Okay, so if you hadn't put that it would invite another night of nightmares, I was actually about to send it to you, and I'm just like, nah, I don't want to give you nightmares. Thing is, Amar, it's not even scary. I know, but it doesn't mean you had to torture me like that, Bobo. Okay, just because I'm the Xenomorph Uber fan doesn't mean I'm a fan of everything, okay? I mean, I did get a cease and desist from one of the mods in the Guru Discord at one point because I posted a Xenomorph Pokemon crossover. Now, those things were actually scary. That thing was just like, really? Just think effectively. The image Bobo posted was effectively a sassy drag queen Xenomorph, is the image that came to mind. Just, okay. Well, thank you guys for showing up. Do you guys have any suggestions for who to raid? Aqua is live. Let's go say hi to Aqua. All right, Aqua. Let's see. I think that's. Let's see. Make sure I spell it right. All right, y'all. Sending you off. I still don't have a raid message yet. Haven't figured that one out, but make sure to behave, and we will see you guys tomorrow as I continue Long Live the Pumpkin Queen. All right. See y'all.
Whoa! Hi, Laura. Hello. Thank you so much for the raid. And hello, raiders. My name is Aqua. Welcome to my aquarium. I am a real shark mermaid. If you need to raid or run, I completely understand. Make sure to take care of yourselves. Thank you so much for the raid. Hello. We are currently doing an emote slash donathon where if you donate $10, five or get 5 emotes, then I will draw an emote for you on stream. We are working on our third and fourth emote today. How much? So the minimum is $10 for one emote, or gift 5 subs, or I think we do 10, like what, 1,000 bits too. Let me go ahead Yeah, God damn it! Give me a ticket, motherfucking shout out. So I'm going to be doing it all weekend, but there is a chance that I'll be extending it on. Lala underscore FA underscore. Ah, it works. So far today, we've done this one and this one, and we have this one, and then soon this one. Alright. I got approval for this one. No, I finally get.
Hey, honey,
Huh? This one? No,
come here.
this one's Draco Wolf's. Draco Wolf